You're muted. Kip, you're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. What a great start to the day, to the stream, guys. Vish is back, and I am very happy, and I missed you, Vish, and I'm happy you're back.
I didn't get sunburned. Yay.
Yay. Well, that's good. So
A bunch of the people I was with did, though.
Really? Wow. Where
Listen,
was it? San Diego?
It was
I think you said.
yeah, it was an outdoor wedding, but only for I guess a limited time. We were sitting facing the sun, and I had kind of a, I guess, corporate goth look going on.
You sure did.
Oh my gosh, you must be so hot. You must be like sweating. And yeah, for a little while, it was a little toasty, but being on the coast, being right on the water, and being the season, as soon as the sun went down, everybody got cold, but I didn't.
That's that's some excellent planning on your part, and right. Kind of prescient. I feel like it. Good job. I saw the pictures, and you looked great, and it looked like you guys had a lot of fun.
We did. It was the best playlist at the reception, and they had cool music to walk out to. And the thing that made me laugh the hardest was, you know, they did the ceremony. They each had their little doggos as part of the ceremony, which was very cute. One of them has a corgi, so we got to see the little corgi waddle. And then
corgi waddle
at the end of the vows and everything, when they're walking out as their married couple, they played Wonderwall.
They played what?
Wonderwall.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I just leaned over to my friend, and everybody's clapping, and I'm like, anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Nice.
Yep.
Sorry, I got caught sending a text. I shouldn't do that while I'm streaming. There's a whole bunch of people here, and thanks for showing up, guys. Lasted Wizard 99674 says, why is Mike trying to make the Exodus work when his 6-hour reliability course is perfect? So you know what? Vish has said it. She's not the only person to have said it, and she was echoing another very, very wise and insightful woman in my life when she said, I think Michael Jones has a humiliation kink, possibly. So possibly, right?
Does he, first of all, does he have to do that in the arena of theology? And 2, you're supposed to ask for consent.
Oh, yes.
I did not consent to participating in his kink. So I think that would be, you know, good first step.
It would be. It really would be a good first step. But anyways, there is a bunch of people here. Maya is here, and Gward and Noise Ending both. It's kind of nice. I feel like I am progressively just increasing the potential number of Hebraists in my audience, which is wonderful. Both Gward and Noise Ending are Hebrew students of mine. Gward just started the new class, the new class, which is pretty sweet. Let us know how that's going, Gward. Weirdo Rock Heinrich 7 is here. Chenk, another one of my Hebrew students, is here. Show is never here. Is here. Who else do we have in the house? Let's see. You guys are, well, a few of you are chatting. Oh, look, Holly's here. Free per shirt, everyone. Johnny Appleseed 2889 is here. Michael Jones is doing the good old Britney Spears Whoops, I did it again. He does that from time to time. Good to see Tommy. And I'm happy to that we're hanging out with you at the end of your workday. Miranda Rensberger is here. You mean to say that Moses didn't part the Red Sea? Next, Kip
He
will be
did. He used the
telling
bee
there's
blade.
the beef.
Hmm.
There's no tooth bunny. I would never.
Unless you
Bitcourse is
read
good to see you.
Bunnicula, and then there is.
Yeah, right. I see. I'm not in any position to challenge such things. Allegedly, Fred, the Exodus did happen in Hebrew mythology. It just didn't happen in history. Very
Not the
good.
way it was described, anyway.
And Abesha and Jeromide. This is a friend of yours, right? I think.
I mean, yeah, a lot of these people are in various chats and comment sections that I frequent.
Yeah. Awesome. So good to see everyone. Look, everyone is very happy that that you are back.
It was
So
2 weeks.
I know, but it felt it was long. So it was but I'm yes, it's very good. Brendan Runyon, I was in Josh's Acadian class with Brendan,
Oh,
and
sweet.
Primordial Puggles is here. Good to see you. Prixie is also in my Hebrew class, and it's good to see you, Prixie. And I'll just say, guys, and Prixie can attest to this. So you know, I just did for my new group with the religion department. I just did syllables and vowels and accents, which is the lesson out of all of them. This is the one I hate the most. I really,
Why?
really do. I find it difficult to teach, and I feel like a lot of students struggle with it
Hmm.
when we're going through it, and maybe it's because I'm terrible at teaching the vowels and the syllabification and stuff. So, but I was so encouraged last, like at the beginning of this year, when I took my current digital Hammurabi group through it. And that's the thing too, right? Like at the end of my lesson, I'm looking out at the audience, and they all look like they're deer staring in the headlights of an oncoming car. And it's a bad feeling as a teacher when you see your students are like, oh my god, what am I doing?
The thing that
Um,
helped me the most with that is taking a word that I know really well, like, yeah, shalom. Even people who
mhm,
don't know Hebrew can say that. You write it out, and then you put the little vowel markers under there, and you go, "Okay, this is a word that you probably know. This is what it looks like written out." And then you kind of like you could circle or color code the syllables and the markers, and usually
mhm,
if you start with something people already know, it's a little easier than just
that's
picking
true.
random vocab, but
Yeah. It's always the thing. It's always the when you get into the nitty-gritty of the open and closed, um, accented and unaccented syllables, and the vocalization and spirantization of Shava and these sorts of things. But anyways,
this is why
Prixie had that.
when I
Prixie
teach
had.
people, yeah, I don't teach them the grammar parts, but that's also
No,
why
I
I'm
know.
not
It's
great
super I just yeah, it's just it's very useful for a lot of people when it comes to sorting out, the rest of the language. But, so Prixie, when we did this part of this when we did this lesson, like, at the beginning of the year, she had that look in her eyes, and I felt terrible. And then, like, I think it was 2 or 3 days later, she emailed me and she sent me, like, this amazing, like, a flowchart that she made of the alphabet and all the vowels and
Mhm.
all the rules for the accents and I was just so good. I was so appreciative. So it's yeah, it's terrific. So I've been using that. So you'll be happy to know, Prixie, that I have distributed it to my new group of Hebrew students. So thank you so much for that. Triceratops is here. And let's see, there's anybody else? Oh, Bethany. Good to see you, Bethany. And good to see you, Oma Susan. Finally, you finally found the one true format. Very good. Congratulations. That's excellent. Oh, look. Tom Coziel 141 is here. And sporting a fancy new membership. Look at that.
Yeah,
So-
Gordon Love Science gifted 5 KIP memberships. So congrats, Ian Camby, Davos 1, Primordial Puggles, Triceratops, and Bethany 713.
Congratulations, everyone, and welcome.
Aha!
So
It does have it. I have a set of Hebrew grammar cards for
nice.
biblical
Let's look at
Hebrew
those.
that I
There we
got,
go.
and they have little pronunciations. Sorry, the
Oh, very good.
and the
Yeah.
vowels and stuff. And then obviously there's 2 really big sets. One of them is focused on grammar and conjugation. The other one is basically just a massive vocabulary list of like the most
Wow,
common
yeah.
verbs. So
Yeah.
that one I don't use as much, but this one is pretty nice to have as a reference. It also has a little
No, that's
subsection at the
great.
bottom for modern pronunciation that I thought was cool. And it's cheap, you can
Oh,
get it. This one I got from eisenbrowns.org, but it's available on all sorts of stuff like Amazon and
awesome.
other places. So
That's fantastic.
lots of people make
Thank you,
Hebrew
Vish.
flashcards and
It's true.
such.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
the good news
Etsy.
is that there's like no shortage of resources out there for people who are and no question. Prixie, yours is awesome. I love yours. It's the coolest one I think I've seen. So
Send
I'm
it.
honored. Yeah, I will.
You could sell that on Etsy.
Good call. In the meantime, I got a super chat from Koopa1282 for $5. Thank you very much. Paul D of the Is That in the Bible blog pointed out in 1 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 21 to 22 as a place internal to the Bible that presumes the Exodus didn't happen. Yeah, there's I think a couple of these places in the text where there doesn't seem to be any clear historical memory of the Exodus, but those sorts of things are always fun. But we'll probably talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. I came across this just last week, and it's been a little while since we beat up on Michael Jones. So here we are. It's part of the brand now, really, I think. But I saw he had uploaded a new video about the Exodus, and it turns it's a lecture that he actually gave. Somebody asked Michael Jones to come and like talk to a group of people about this thing that he kind of understands, but maybe not as well as he should. And I recognized, I believe that this is a lecture that he gave in Boston while he was attending ETS. The reason I think that is because I've recognized the church that it's in for I've seen a couple of other events that happen at ETS in this particular church. So I think that's where this took place. But he's addressing a crowd and going through his slide presentation of all the information he suggests we apparently have for the Exodus. What's up?
Okay.
Before we start though,
Oh yeah.
Tom Cosiel 141 gifted
another.
Can we tell who that
I
went
don't know
to?
who it went to.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks.
No idea.
Thanks, Tom. Where did did it list the ones that Gordon gave? Because
looking on the YouTube chat, which I have in another.
You have that. Okay, that's the way to do it. Good call.
StreamYard just doesn't feel like showing it. So
And for $1.99, Jeremiah says Michael Jones and me tell each other fairy tales. Yeah, that happens. So yeah, we might as well jump into this. We've got until I have a hard out at 4:30 today, 7:30, because we are premiering season 3 of Star Trek Endurance over at Dapper Dinosaurs channel. So I'm going to be reviving the character of Lieutenant Viscount Lieutenant Vrelax, the Gorn science officer and space archaeologist aboard the USS Kongzi. So that starts at 8 o'clock Eastern and 5 o'clock Pacific, and you guys will be redirected there from this stream. But I do need to get out of here in a little over 2 hours.
You want me to start 20 seconds in? Because that's where the first little...
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's do that. So
okay. I've already got
wait, was that the first of my timestamps? I think actually, you know what?
yes.
Maybe just I think just let it go from the start. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, but then we get
here we go.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the Exodus. I'm sure that's something you're all interested in because you're here. Exactly. This is a very, very important subject. It's probably the most cataclysmic event in the Bible in terms of scope and how many people it would have affected in the ancient world. It's probably one of the most important event in terms of the Old Testament, most pivotal event. And we are told constantly by scholars there is no evidence it happened. Now, why is that? Well,
pause.
Why is that?
There was a lot there, wasn't it? The Exodus was the most it would have been the most cataclysmic event that affected like, does he believe in a global
you and
flood?
Me, Melly. Same page.
Nice. Very nice. But
in
even
terms
if
of
he
number
doesn't,
of people affected, if it was a global flood, then yeah, that would be the most people affected. He doesn't think that the Earth is young. I do know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He at least accepts that, the Earth is old.
I don't think you can some of this young Earth creationist bullshit better than I do, but I think I don't think you can be an old Earth creationist and believe in a global flood. I feel like that's
usually they could possibly believe in it, but I find commonly that they consider it like a regional thing. So
I think
his video on why the Earth isn't young and why the flood wouldn't have been as the young Earth creationists described is actually pretty good. That's how I discovered his channel years ago. And then I looked at his other
Michael
videos
Jones?
and was like, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think he's definitely he's it's probably safe to say not a global flood guy, Michael Jones, right? But even let's unpack this a little bit. Even if it's a regional flood, it's a massive, that's kind of part of the whole point of that position, isn't it? That this is a massive flood.
Yeah.
Big enough that does he's probably committed to some sort of idea of Noah or a Noah figure loading up a barge or a boat with animals.
It's been so long since I watched that video of his about the flood that I don't recall many of the specifics. I don't generally think very much about the flood, to be honest with you. When I'm reading through the Hebrew Bible, that's not one of the places I tend to go to.
No, very fair, and neither do I. So, but I don't think many of the biblical writers thought all that often about the global flood either. But yeah, so I would just say that even if it's a local flood, I think it's a good point the most cataclysmic event of the ancient world, affecting how many people. Where does the Exodus rank on that? Like it's so from I know a little bit about Michael's model, so it would have affected, I guess, Egyptians and Israelites and Canaanites.
And then whatever other people were either there on purpose or
But
enslaved.
it's like the
presumably.
Assyrians and the Mesopotamians and the Hittites and the Mycenaeans and all these people.
Multitude.
It's
This
just, they just would not have noticed that anything happened, really. There's a few more super chats that have come in. You guys are really generous today. Thank you. I appreciate it. Tree Clam Tad for $2 says, why is Mike? Humiliation kink. I feel like this is an answer to a lot of questions. So Jeremiah, inspiring philosophy for $2. Thanks for that. And Tree Clam Tat is back with another $2, putting not a global flood guy on my grinder.
I want to know if the statistics for Grindr spike wherever the ETS conference takes place.
ETS goes. God, yeah. Wow, eh? Somebody needs to look into that. I doubt
a lot
Republicans
have a convention.
So what Turning Point USA, does it do the same thing for TP USA, or do we know?
I don't recall.
Or CPAC.
I suspect that a lot of those right-wing
groups
have a corresponding spike in the Grindr.
It's like the Grindr cash cow. Grindr basically budgets their year on the basis of the conservative conference scene. It's
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Happy Pride Month, everyone. So yes, thank you, Vish, for the reminder. Okay, so most consequential event. He's the most important event in the Bible, he says. That impression is there, I think, fairly, but I would say it depends. It really depends on how you read the text, because there's a lot of places you can go.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Jewish, that's definitely, I would say, probably the core of early identity formation. So for us specifically, it would be like a big moment. But for Christians, I don't think that would necessarily apply, because isn't Jesus supposed to be like the biggest deal? So
yeah, exactly. So all right, so he's set the stage here. Michael wants his audience to think that the Exodus is something that's extremely important, that deserves your attention, and this also explains why he takes the approach that he does. This is something that has to have happened for reasons, right? So so that's the direction he's going to go with this.
Okay.
Well, quite frankly, it's because they're looking in the wrong time. If we look at this, for example, this is just a rough timeline of what's going on here. So people go to 1 Kings 6:1, which says, in the 480th year, after the people of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the months of Ziv, which is the 2nd month, he began to build the house of the Lord. Now, as you'll see, it says 480th. If you check the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation, it says 440. So let's just go on the Septuagint dates, but you can kind of get this, just a general timeline here. As you can see, Solomon started building the temple.
Does he explain his preference for the Greek over the Hebrew? Is that a theological thing?
I think he's coming to. He does not explicitly endorse the Septuagint reading as the correct reading. What he is going to get into, and we can let him get into that, but I'll just point out on the outside, what he is going to get into is how the 480 number is most likely a symbolic number, right? Like it's
Okay.
theologically significant. Hey, good to see you, Apologia. Who's this Jones fellow? Someone new on the scene. God damn. Guys, if you haven't seen Paul's video, that was published on
Extravaganza.
Monday. So good. It's over 2 hours. It's the weirdest thing to be watching a Apologia video that clocks in at over 2 hours that I and Joshua Bone are not involved in. So there's that. But it's excellent, and thank you so much, Paul, for doing this, because I also was getting sick and tired of listening to Michael Jones prattle on about how everybody is just dodging his ideas about the 6 hours. Yeah. Just dodging his ideas about gospel authorship and reliability. And you crushed it. You killed it. You
But also,
left
the
nothing
funniest part of that
there.
is that, yeah, he went through all those hours of Mike's series, one by one, editing, responding, scripting, and Mike just watched a
Huge.
few minutes of his response, went, "Yeah, I don't like this, it doesn't have anything to say," and he quit. Good job, guy.
You misrepresented me
You didn't even watch the whole thing.
by
Get out of here.
carefully showing extensive clips from my video that I made. How dare you, Paul? Wow, that's just rotten.
Nah, he
Boy.
quit pretty early, so we see
Yeah, he
how
did.
honest he is. Yeah, good job.
We see it. So yes, he is going to point out the Masoretic text date is a symbolic date, but I don't think he actually comes to a preference or an explanation, and I think that's potentially a bit problematic with how he wants to present this. So
okay, all right.
966. Go back 440. You place it at 1406 or 1446, depending on which version of the Old Testament. And so everyone's like looking there for an Exodus, and then critical scholars laugh and say, "Ha, well, no evidence, because there's no evidence of an Exodus there." And they're correct.
Is that what you do, Kip? Do you go, haha, no evidence?
No. I go, well, I look at the text and I go, well, the text is probably mistaken about, excuse me, I got a cough.
A great many things.
The text is mistaken about a great many things. True. But this is one of them, right? I look at the text and I go, well, this is probably a mistake. I wonder why they've set this event in this particular period. I wonder what's going on in the text behind this story. That seems a lot more significant about what they're trying to communicate. Does it even matter that there was an Exodus at all? I mean, that's kind of one of the first places I go to. I just don't think it does, because the text has a lot more thing. There's more stuff going on with these Exodus stories pertaining to just whether or not this is something that actually happened. Certainly, the writers wanted you to think it did, but
identity formation.
That's the big one, right? Yep. So,
and you don't have to form your identity on that, it turns out. You
don't. Actually, I wonder if I don't think I have it handy, but there's Eric Klein has written a really nice book called from what's it called? It's from Eden to do you know the one I'm talking about?
I don't remember the title offhand.
Sorry.
And this is already on one.
Sorry.
The way, so
Yeah. Okay, thank you. From Eden to Exile.
Mm.
You wrote a really good book.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of it's like it's a basic introductory book to like critical biblical studies and archaeology, and just the ways, some of the controversies that are at work there, and the ways in which scholars work through those. The thing that's so great about it, the thing that's awesome, is that it's really really balanced. Like, I often feel like Eric Klein is going out of his way to not upset anyone, to try and ensure that even someone like Michael Jones can read his book and go, yeah, I can agree with he also wrote 1177 BC, which is a phenomenal book. That one is one of my favorite trade paperback biblical studies books on the market. People should.
It's also in terms of like getting people onboarded into like critical scholarship, it's a little bit outdated, but only slightly, is Who Wrote the Bible by Richard Elliott Friedman. That one's pretty accessible.
Right. That is a good one. Yeah. So but I brought up the book from Eric Klein because he tells a story in there when he's talking about the Exodus, of the various he goes to a lot of work to talk about the various approaches you can take, in informing your historical ideas about what happened. He mentions Israel Finkelstein, who has pretty famously come out and said that there just never was anything historical about this. Like, just not at all. It was all completely made up in the 7th century. And he quotes Israel Finkelstein, who himself tells a story of celebrating the Passover with his family and his young children, and reading the Exodus Seders, during the rituals and in celebration of the Jewish holiday. He's like, I don't sit down with them at my preteen girls and go, now you understand that none of this actually happened, and that there's all sorts of archaeological and textual problems with holding to the idea of an historical accident. He doesn't do any of that because it's just not appropriate in that kind of context,
we
right?
also
Like, it's just
don't do that in synagogues either. Like,
never.
There are open conversations where rabbis will be up there going, yeah, I mean, it didn't really happen as written. It's not like, unless you're someone who's very, very theologically conservative, that's not breaking idea. Most people are learning about this. So
yeah, exactly. He tells that story, and then he goes on to say, he's like, my daughters are grown up now. They're young adults, and we've had these conversations in different contexts, and they understand, from an historical perspective, and it's still not something. We still celebrate the Seders and don't talk about it, and it just doesn't make an issue. It's just not an issue, right? This doesn't have to be an issue. And I think if you're going to plant your flag on this as an issue, it's potentially problematic, because what it does is it pigeonholes you to a certain methodology and a certain ideology when it comes to, and I'm not just talking about the Bible, just general history, just general historiography, and by extension, science, I think. So that's where I find this kind of stuff troubling.
Yeah. Just a reminder, like, you don't have to form your identity on these particular legends. You can just not do that. So
you can do it.
Okay. Do you want me to? There are a few super chats.
Let's look at those. Sure.
Okay. Weirdo Rock Hyrax. How is Mike?
Yeah, I think that was in response
Happy
to
National Donut Day. I'm so mad. That's the thing I forgot to do today. So many places were giving out free donuts.
Oh wait. I'm not in your nation, so I guess I'm left out of that. But
Timbo's
Happy
doesn't give
National
out donuts on Donut Day?
I don't know. I don't know. I
should
didn't
look
even
that
look
up.
into it.
Free donuts.
Where free donuts from where in the US?
Lots of places, local and national chains.
Are you
It's like you
serious?
get there and it's
Wow.
like if you're one of the first whatever number of people, they'll give you donuts. And some places are like, "Oh no, you'll just get one free one today." It's like good
Wow.
for business. And I forgot.
Wow.
Of course I did.
I'm sorry.
Jeremiah for $4.99. The Exodus is important to someone like Jones because they believe it's another foreshadowing of Jesus in the Bible. Yeah, it's also part of it.
It's part of
Jesus
it, right?
is the lamb, but also a priest, and also the sacrifice, but also all these other things that overlap and are
All the
contradictory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tree Clam Tad for 5. IP is what would happen if the bricks and minifix people were into Playmobil instead of Lego. Shot cult leader. Topical. Thank you. I don't think that brand is ever going to recover from this, to be honest with you. Anyway, Kip, if you don't know about that, we can
I
talk
don't.
later.
We can talk later. But I just want to say that as a kid, I did actually have some Playmobil.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Show's never here. Aren't there also different ways how to form one's identity around these legends? Like, for instance, making the historical study behind them your identity. I mean, human identity formation is very complicated and complex and often nonsensical, and it's very vibes based and changes a
Almost
lot.
always vibes
So,
based. Seriously.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nuance.
Okay. Yeah. Well, unwelcome nuance.
Correct. There is no evidence of an Exodus around this time. But, as I said, that's not when the Exodus happened, even according to the Bible. We need to remember something is like, numbers are not always meant to be literal. Very much so in the ancient world, less so today. But if I told you my wife is a 10, that you would not think that's her age. Okay? It's pretty common. In the ancient world, numbers were often used symbolically, especially in...
You have some things to say about that?
Think that most people would understand that you're referring to an age, my man. I don't think anyone thinks that. If you say my wife is a 10, people know that you mean think she's like really hot. So they're not thinking that you refer to age. That would be really creepy.
His point here and that's not even like that. This is where the analogy breaks down, right? Like when we're talking, he's making this point that if you treat the numbers in the Bible as symbolic, then you can ignore the fact that they point to a time that's wrong. You can ignore that fact if you imagine that they're symbolic. The problem is that even if that's true, they're still pointing to a time. Like they're still dating the text. And to your point, when he calls his wife a 10, it's just a completely different context for the usage of numbers. Sometimes numbers function for age. Yes. A 10. Yeah.
Treatment Tad for 2. Christian apologist, his wife may be 10.
Oh.
Apologia for the fatality. He's been in too many Muslim debates.
Wow.
Okay, back to the video.
Genres. So in poetry, also in an ancient genre called temple dedication inscriptions. So let's look at some examples here. So this is from Assyria. It says, Tukulti Ninurta I declared 720 years elapsed from the initial construction of the Temple of Ishtar to his own construction. Scholars are pretty much in agreement. It was not exactly 720 years. Same with in Egypt, something else as well. Now, Egypt's important because that had...
Yeah, but did we find the temple that he's talking about?
We did, yes. Can you just back it up a little bit to that slide, though?
Let me go right back. Come on. There we go.
And I didn't look this up, guys. I'll admit I was a lot of this stuff I was just kind of scanning through, but I would like to know because I don't. Tukulti Ninurta I declares 720 years elapsed from the initial construction of the Temple of Ishtar by Ilushamu to its own to his own construction. 720 years is a numerological approximation of the distant past, using the theologically pregnant numbers 12 multiplied by 60. So, but my question is, so what is the actual, like, how far off were they?
Mhm.
I think that's kind of significant when it comes to this sort of stuff. Like, is it in the ballpark? Because
Someone in
like
chat help
that's
us out.
what's that?
I said someone in the chat help us out.
Yeah. If somebody knows or can look it up while
Speed
we're,
dial
because
Josh.
I'm
Hey,
curious.
when was the Temple of Ishtar
Right.
finished?
I meant to, but I've had a chaotic week. But but I think this is just raising this question. I think is important, and I want to know because if I was making this presentation, the first thing I would do, one of the first things I would do would be, well, what was the actual time? And I would put that information out there. Why doesn't he tell us when there's like why is that information not included as part of his slide presentation? So
Well, I suspect that's unwelcome nuance.
it could be. All right, let's go on to the next one. And I think
Okay.
that the next one kind of
something else as well. Now, Egypt's important because that had cultural influence on Israel. It says Seti the first rededicated the temple of Seth in the 400th year on the 4th month on the 4th day when it was built. But the temple was actually about 460 years.
Pause.
So you see the issue here is that there.
All right. So see, this is more kind of like what I'm talking about, right? And I think this goes to what's happening in the Masoretic text when you compare it to the Septuagint. There's a different. It's either 480 years or 440 years, according to either version of the biblical text. The Masoretic text version looks like it's symbolic. The Septuagint version looks like they're trying to figure out when the Exodus took place. Like that looks like that's what they're trying to do. Here, there is a clear programmatic number. There's clearly programmatic numbers at work here in the inscription of Seti's rededication of the temple in the 400th year in the 4th month on the 4th day, which is 1320 BCE, when in actual fact, it was off by 60 years. It was about 460 years old. He's got the date wrong there. Circa, it should be 1380, not 1780 BCE. Again, you're in the ballpark. Again, 60 years when factoring into, and I think more than to Vicious' point, the problem isn't, that's not so much the problem here when it comes to the Exodus stuff, because like at least you have something that you can clearly point to and say that, I mean, there's a fucking temple there. There is an actual temple there, and we can adduce when it was built. So now we understand what's happening in the text. You just don't have anything like that for the Exodus story.
Using symbolic type numbers in temple dedication inscriptions. What was Solomon doing in the book of Kings? A temple dedication. We should expect him to also be doing something similar like this, not using a chronological number, but using just a symbolic number. And if you think about it, if you take 40 times 12, 12 tribes, 40 years, very important number in the Bible, you get that. So that's most likely what they were doing, is they were using.
I have never heard anyone make the case that it's 40 times 12, like one for each tribe.
Oh, really? Actually, that is something that and maybe that's mostly in a Christian apologetic thing, but that is actually a fairly.
There's 13. I know that this trips people up, but there's 13 tribes. It's just that Levi doesn't get a land inheritance. So does that help his point at all? I don't know if it does.
And you
Yeah.
probably knew this, Vish, but there are places in the Bible where you can go and count less than 13 tribes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our
Plus-
oldest tribal list appears in Judges 5, and there's only 10 there. And there's a tribe mentioned that just doesn't. It's not preserved in any future memory in the Hebrew Bible. The
real
tribe of
lost
Machir.
tribe of Israel.
Yeah, right. It's the tribal lists are complicated. So
Yeah. And Claude Simeon was asking why is Manasseh counted twice? Why 2 half tribes? Yeah. Go square the numbers.
By the
So,
way,
it's like, oh well, half
I
of them are living here and half are living across the river because they didn't want to like leave their fertile place and they made a promise to lend your hand in battle and blah 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 blah. But book plug.
I wrote a book. This is it. This is the book that I wrote, and I have a whole section in I believe it's chapter 9, where I talk about how to understand the arrangement of tribal allotments in the text. Yes, I have a whole section here, which I entitled the begats there at the bottom of the page, and I go through the various tribal lists in Judges 5 and Genesis 49 and Deuteronomy 33 and First Chronicles 27. And you know what the fun thing is about all of those tribal lists in all of those places is that they're all different.
Shock.
Crazy that, eh? Yeah.
I'm absolutely stunned, shocked, surprised.
It's stunning information, I know.
Yeah.
So
symbolic numbers. Also, we need to also talk about this as well. So I want you to think about this. Moses was said to be 80 at the start of the Exodus. Okay. He's supposed to have spent 40 years in Midian, right? So he's 40 years in Egypt, 40 years in Midian. God then sends him back 40 years or so until he dies. Well, what does Exodus 4:20 say? So he's 80 years old. Okay. He's got 2 sons. Exodus 4:20 says, so Moses took his wife and his 2 sons and had them ride on a donkey, and they went back to the land of Egypt. That poor donkey. 2 full-grown boys and a woman on them. Wow.
Okay, man. I paused because I was going to ask you what this has to do with archaeological evidence for the Exodus.
You're looking at the slide here, right?
Yeah.
There's a problem with
40 years being an
this.
unknown time period.
That I was looking at his sources here. He's got Exodus 7:7, fine.
Mhm.
Exodus 4:20, fine.
Yep.
What Acts
though?
7:30?
Yeah, what?
Why do we care?
Why are you using that as yeah?
As this is supposed to be Michael Jones, this is supposed to be about history. I understand that you have a theological commitment to the totality of the biblical text of both the Old and the New Testament, but you're supposed to be doing history here. Acts is not a source for the history of the emergence of Israel. It is just not. There's nothing that you can get from that text which is going to increase your understanding of anything that happened in the divided kingdoms of Israel and Judah, or anything that before that, or even anything in the Israel. Like, it's just, this is not relevant. It's not relevant. So
the whole slide is not relevant.
It really isn't. It's just, it is just not. And there's this is an assertion that 40 years is generally understood to be a reference for an unknown time period. That can happen. There are plenty of times when that is not the case, or certainly not necessarily the case. There is the issue with sources that you have to deal with. These texts in the Hebrew Bible, and especially in the Torah, are pulling information from a variety of sources, many of which are dealing with the same events and the same personages, but from varied viewpoints. So that is always an important consideration. And then the other thing here too is, um, it's not that big a deal for the Hebrew Bible writers for men to have children at extreme old ages. I'm just saying that die is set. And I don't see any reason why we would think that this is just not an option. And I think what we're going to see as an ongoing theme in this video are assertions to correct supposed problems or errors within the text. However, the failure to even acknowledge that this is a more nuanced issue, that there are other elements within the texts and within the data that must be considered when we're drawing our conclusions. And most importantly, scholars are not all coming to these conclusions. When Michael says that scholars are all looking in the wrong time period for the Exodus, it's not like they just didn't think they should start looking in the 13th century BCE. That's not the reason. The reason is because they've looked at all the evidence and know it like a fuck ton better than you do, Michael Jones, and they have rejected your ideas. They are not convinced.
Plus, you really don't want to open with this as your argument. Like, well, the book says, okay, great, but the archaeology is really where you want to be looking for this. You can't just, well, the Bible tells me so. You're way out of this one. There's figurative numbers and like we can estimate. It's like, dude, he already used 2 examples with actual artifacts that we have. Physical, tangible evidence of things that were built and that happened. The numbering of the dates was probably a little off. Who cares? We don't have any actual, like, in the ground evidence of the Exodus happening the way it was described. So, buddy.
True.
Buddy. Okay.
Buddy.
Super or video.
Let's do a couple super chats.
Okay. I think there's only 2. Claude Simeon for $2. Glavish is back. All is right with the stream. Deviant Outcast for 129 sects.
Good to see you, Deviant Outcast.
Philosophy. Talking about the Exodus. This isn't going to be frustrating at all. Especially since he's known to be informed by defamed popcorn.
Oh, yes. You know who the defamed popcorn muncher is, right?
To whom is that referring?
This is Michael's source here for
It's not family, it's clan. Mishkapet.
Oh, of course. Mishkapet.
Yes, most of Michael's primary source for a lot of the information that he promotes regarding the Exodus is one certain now disgraced Egyptologist. Now, Vish, are you familiar with Deviant Outcast?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them around occasionally.
So they're actually Deviant Outcast actually has graduate training in Egyptology.
I suspected because of the avatar there.
Correct. Yes. So somebody who knows what they're talking about, who is not impressed ever by Michael Jones. Go figure. But no, before you guys have been like super. I want to say just that you guys have been super generous today already, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I wanted to say I don't ever do this, so this is kind of new, but like this channel works on the back of your generosity. And if you believe in what we're doing here, then thank you for your support through just super chats or through channel memberships. I have a Patreon that you can sign up to if you like what I do and you want to see Vish and me continue to be here every Friday. You can do that. I teach courses, and those are extreme. When you purchase courses or when you join my courses, that helps me get through month to month. And I'm I have a book for sale at Amazon. So thanks everyone for your support, and I just really appreciate it. So cool. Good to
Damn it. Tree Clam Tad says no, and then I accidentally hit delete. So dang it. You probably
Thanks,
saw a
Tad.
glimpse of it, but
I saw a
he said
glimpse.
no.
I did. So listen.
Oh snap!
I see
Hang
that.
on.
I see that. Oh, geez, holy
Primordial
shit!
Puggles
Wow,
for a very generous
very generous. Holy cow!
$100 dues.
Wow, thank you so much. That's overwhelming. Thank you very much. And every
It's
little bit,
Primordial Puggles.
and every
You're
lot
great.
bit. Yeah, you are.
Oops.
Fantastic. All right. Well, should we continue?
Yeah, let's
Watching
keep going.
some more of this.
Very unlikely.
Yeah. Oops. Dang it, what is going on with
40
my
years is often used in the Bible to just refer to an unknown time period. About 40 years or so. Very common in Old Testament literature. Not in the New Testament per se, but in the Old Testament, very common to just use 40 to be like some unspecified time. And this is, of course, what scholars like Ernest Nuff says. For what happened before his time, the round figure of 40 years indicates that it was a long, long time of unknown extent. This is just how they sort of said, yeah, a couple years ago. Yeah, it took a couple years. You might say, yeah, about a week ago, I went to church. You better have. Yeah, but
No, it's not really the equivalent of a couple years ago. That's really not a good comparison, I don't think.
Also, I think he's still trying to make the case here that the 40 what's happening is the Masoretic text author or scribe is trying to build on this 40 years times 12 tribes thing, right? But I don't know, it seems to me that he's trying to do something really specific, right? He really is trying to point to a very specific time in history as, this is when these things actually happened. I think that's significant. He's not just saying this all happened in the distant past and we don't remember anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, quite the opposite. Right? I think the opposite point is being made.
Yeah. What's the way that we tell stories now? Like long ago and far away, things like that. We don't always use numbers, but yeah.
Wasn't exactly a week ago. Similar kind of thing. And they did this more hyper-focused in the ancient world. So that needs to be noted as well. So when do scholars who believe in historical exodus actually date it? Basically, around the year of 1265. This is the estimated time of Joseph. So, around the 1550s or so. You have Abraham at about this time, 1800s to 1750 or so, based on the things happening around the same time period. So this is just a general timeline. Now, why do they say this, 1265? Because a very important verse in the Bible, it says that they built for Pharaoh store cities, Pithom and Ramesses. Now, Ramesses is a very important city. We know when it was built. It was built around the year 1300 BC. No one disputes that. No one. Some try to say that, well, it was also the city of Avaris. No, that's false. Avaris and Ramesses, Ramesses, were two different cities separated by about 2 kilometers. So they were not the same. Now, if Israel built Ramesses, they obviously still had to be in Egypt by around 1300 BC to build that city. So that's roughly the time of that. So we would expect them have an Exodus time frame after sometimes of P. Ramesses. However, let's add another piece of data in. So this is called the Merneptah stele. It dates to...
This is all very circular.
It's pretty
I gotta go get the
circular.
clip. Hang on. Here we go.
Very nice.
That's all this is.
I was reading something earlier, and I see if I can find it and pull it up.
While
here.
you do
know what,
that,
the
we have a
easiest
member
thing to
chat
do- Oh,
from
nice.
Prixie Purple, member for 12 months. Kip, you don't have to be so uncomfortable shilling yourself. You deserve to make money for your work. Keep it up. The labor is worthy.
I really appreciate it. It's just hard to. It's just I very much appreciate it, and it does make me very uncomfortable. As you can tell, and I'm very bad at that part of things. So I think the way to let's go like that.
Did you star the comment?
Which comment? Oh, no,
The
it's
one
oh
that
shit.
you're looking for?
No, I was reading something today in a book about this issue of P. Ramesses, because something that Michael is not pointing out is that there were actually like a lot of cities in Egypt named Ramesses, and maybe this is something that that Deviant Outcast can weigh in on. As I understand it, while P. Ramesses is certain, like the city that is across or very close to Avaris is certainly a good candidate for the city that is being referred to by the biblical author. As I understand it, this is not a slam dunk. That there's a bunch of cities in Egypt bearing the name Ramesses. Go figure. And that first element of it, the P part, that there is some ongoing discussion about what that specifically could refer to. So again, let's just say what Michael is embarking on here is a possible case for an historical exodus, but it's not so clean. It's not so clear. It's not unproblematic.
Around 1200 or so, it's a stele of the Pharaoh Merneptah raiding through Canaan. And he mentions Israel was in the land of Canaan at that point. He says Israel was there. Okay? So let's go back down to our timeline here. If P. Ramesses is built around 1300, the Merneptah stele says they're in Canaan at this point. We can just definitively date the Exodus to this time frame, right? After the P. Ramesses is built, Israel's there, but they have to be in Canaan by around 1200 or 1208 BC. Pretty simple. So because of that, we can definitively align the Exodus using biblical data and archaeological data to point out that the Exodus had to happen in the early 1200s BC. So that's why I said like 1265, for example, sometime in there. Because they still need 40 years of wandering, and they're in Canaan. Boom. Make sense? Pretty simple. So we know.
So wait. The 40 years for like Moses's age or other dating, that's just an indeterminate amount of time. But the Exodus, he seems to be implying that that's definitely 40 years. Why isn't the Exodus, like post-Exodus wandering, an indeterminate amount of time?
Right. I think I figured out the problem here. Is Eric Klein.
And yeah, Melly and I are on the same page again.
Sorry.
And
let's see. It's bad. It's bad having the data.
Doesn't the Meshach stele talk about Israel, but not in the national sense?
Yes, that is true. There is most scholars are agreed that the way that the word Israel appears in the Merneptah stele suggests that it's more like it could be like a social grouping designation that's unattached to a particular place or to, so it's a type of people that it's indicating. So just a sec here. I think
Yeah, I was also wondering this. Quick question: where are the sea peoples in Exodus? Was
right.
that before or
That's
after this?
important.
Yeah, because
Like
this would have been
they're
pretty close to that time.
supposed to be there. It's yeah. Anyways, sorry. I probably shouldn't have done this. I've been looking for something that I'm it's just in my brain, but I can't find it. So my apologies. But we can continue with the
Okay.
video.
Roughly when the Exodus happened.
That was rough.
So is there any evidence of an Exodus in this time? Well, there definitely is. But let's first start. It says, remember, it tells
There
us
definitely
that
is.
Jacob and his family settled in the land of Goshen. And in Goshen, the area of Goshen, there was a city called Avaris, 2 kilometers south of where P. Ramesses would be built. So circumstantially, we're in the right area. Now, what do we know about this city of Avaris in this area of Goshen? Well, we know a lot of good, really interesting stuff about it. So one of the leading archaeologists, Manfred Bitek, you're going to hear me cite him a lot here. He notes this area received an irregular but nonetheless continuous flow of Asiatic immigrants who contributed distinctive Asiatic elements to the life and customs of the local population. And of course, as you know, that's where Joseph and his family settled. What he knows.
What customs did the Israelites contribute to Egyptian society there?
What customs did they contribute to Egyptian
Yeah, he was
society?
he was just quoting this guy.
Oh,
Let me go
Manfred
back a
Bitek, who
little.
says that I have no idea actually. Received a regular
Contributed
contributed distinctly to life
Asiatic
and
elements to
customs.
life and customs. Well, what
Is he
distinctly
talking?
Israelite or Canaanite customs are reflected in Egypt during this time
Egypt?
period?
It's a very good question. And is he talking about just this this time period? It says that Egypt received an irregular but nonetheless continuous flow of Asiatic immigrants. Like when? Starting when? Continuing until when? Like,
Yeah.
you know, because that's something I feel like he's probably keying in on is the I mean the Hyksos came in and basically like took over the country for a time, right?
Yeah.
You know, in the so the 1800s or the 1500s or something like that. So like I'm looking at this and I'm like this feels like a fragment. I want to know more about what's going on and what he's citing here. Feels sus to me.
I mean, a lot of his quotations tend to be pretty sus, and a uncomfortable number of them end up being Trojan source. So, let's see. Quickly, Mike P. for
thank
5
you.
says, happy to support real scholarship. I recently read Yonatan Adler's Origins book. How well known was the Exodus among lay Israelites before 163 or 585 BCE?
Yeah. So this is an ongoing, it's an excellent book, by the way. Yonatan Adler's Origins of Judaism book. So and this is an ongoing question. I'm a firm believer that the stories of the Exodus were long in place by like the 2nd century BCE, and also I think they were in place before the exile. I think there's you know, you can go to places like in Hosea, you can go to places like in Micah, which show an awareness of these stories in circulation, right? But that's not what we're talking about here. What you're asking and what we're thinking through is, you know, run-of-the-mill general Israelite landholder in the, you know, in the post-exilic period, in the Hellenistic period. How familiar are they with these stories? Or are these stories that are still controlled by a very specific group of elite level priests and administrators in in positions of power and who are controlling the dissemination of literature? Like that's an important question, and I don't know that I have a good answer to that. I'm not sure we know much about what the general populace knew about these things beyond just what we find in the archaeological record. And frustratingly, a lot of that is there's lots of iconography, not as much epigraphy as we would like. So one of the things that we do see in the pre-exilic period, at least, is that there's just nothing. Nobody talks. There's no texts in the pre-exilic period talking about the Exodus, that like in terms of inscriptions. I think there's pre-exilic texts that survive in the Bible, but among just you don't go to a site like Kintolarajrud or like Samaria or like Bet Shean and see evidence of people who were thinking about the Exodus. You don't find any of that. It's just not. It's not something that's it seems to be hitting the national zeitgeist at that point. Is that okay? Is that an all right answer?
Enduring motifs writes, the continuous flow of Asiatics coming into Egypt starting at the beginning of the 2nd millennium BCE.
Yes.
But these are not generally treated as Canaanites. These people are
Correct.
from the northern Levant.
Right. That is true. Yeah, and there's undoubtedly Canaanites coming into Egypt for a long period of time. Importantly, again, like Asiatics, distinctly Asiatic people is a lot more than just even Canaanites or certainly Israelites or Hebrews, right? Like this is a broad term. And this is where Michael's kind of playing fast and loose with some of this stuff.
Yeah. And I can't get past the fact that he cites a person who's saying, oh yeah, there's, Asiatic elements in the local culture and customs. And then he doesn't mention any and doesn't extrapolate that to what influenced the Israelites, who are, at least in his mind, a separate people group with their own identity and traditions and whatever. What did they contribute? Because we're pretty sure that the Israelites got circumcision from the Egyptians, and they got tasseled garments as a reference to certain Egyptian garments. So it's are you sure that is going the way you want? So, Tree Climb Dad. Dear Diary, 2 million people left today after giant frog. Thank you for the deep cut midrash.
Do you know that's where Joseph and his family settled? What he knows is that basically Avaris saw a steady flow of Asiatics coming into that region going back hundreds of years. This is just the area Semites would move into and settle. It would be the Avaris region in the land of Goshen. They just slowly started to settle into that region.
Semites?
So basically, if I want to shout this out.
I wasn't going to say anything, but since you mentioned it, just a heads up for the audience. There is no person, past, present, or future, that is a Semite. That's not a people group designation. It is a language branch, which is a subset of Afro-Asiatic. Please do not call any group of people, humans, whatever, Semites. Okay? I get the confusion. It was done intentionally to muddy the waters. The term anti-Semite, you hear anti, against, Semite, therefore you think, oh, well, that must be against a group of people, but it wasn't coined by Wilhelm Marr, but he really helped popularize it. Anti-Semite was only ever meant to refer to Jews, period, the end. He just used the word Semite because of bunk-ass racial, ethnic categories at the time, which are, again, outdated and debunked and full of crap. So, Semitic is a language group, not a people. Friendly reminder. Okay, that's my one soapbox. The academic term ancient Semitic speaking peoples, I think it's close, but again, Semitic is really about the languages, and many people spoke various types of them. So,
yes. Yeah.
Whew, okay. Anyway.
On a timeline. So roughly about here or so, Asiatics decided to start moving into that land of Goshen and Avaris. So we see this commonly coming in. Joseph and his family coming about this period in this pink area here. And then they start settling and taking over that area for a long time. It was a common thing to happen. Now, as you can see here, I have separated Middle Kingdom, intermediate period here, and then New Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom is when the Egyptians ruled. They ruled Egypt. The New Kingdom is when the Egyptians ruled. This middle period is when Semites ruled. They were called the Hyksos. And nobody in Egypt liked them because they were not Egyptian. So at some point, the Thebes in the south, the Thebians, they came down and they fought against the Hyksos in the north, up around Goshen. Their capital was Avaris, and they kicked them out. They defeated them. They took over. They established the New Kingdom. Okay. Now, again, let me just go back here. What does Exodus 1 say? There was a new king over Egypt who did not know Joseph. So this seems to align with what we see already. So again, the Hyksos are ruling. They like Joseph. The New Kingdom takes over. They don't know Joseph, which would make sense. They're far in the south. They come up to the north. They kick out these Hyksos rulers, people that would have known Joseph, the kingdom Joseph would have served under, and they established the New Kingdom of Egypt. And what happened when they took over?
Okay.
How do we know it was the Hyksos? How do you
Right.
appeal to what the Bible says as evidence when you're trying to talk about history and archaeology? Oh my God, this is really frustrating. Okay, Grumpy Librarian,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, the Hebrew language itself didn't exist until Mike's quote, New Kingdom period on the chart.
It's
And
tough, right?
Neo-
Because we
yeah.
don't. There's just like languages. Languages are in use for who like who knows how long before they ever get written down and before we ever see any evidence of their usage, right? It's just very difficult. Yes.
And then cuneiform guy
Importantly.
says the Hyksos were Amorites from Upper
Yeah, they were.
Euphrates and West Semitic speakers, not one single people.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So
Let's see. Also, yeah, and Maltese is so cursed. Maltese is the only Semitic language that's written with the Latin alphabet, and it's so not appropriate for that. There was a demand in the chat, so I have to play this real quick.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yes, that's
All right,
on
and
point.
back to the video.
Before you, yeah, I guess just before you start it, like I just wanna key in on what he's doing here, right? There is a as the case is with a lot of the narrative with a lot of the Hebrew narrative within the biblical text, there is a lot of imprecision taking place. A new king who rose up over Egypt who did not know Joseph could be a lot of things.
Why didn't they name him?
Does not. What's that?
Well, why didn't they name him? Why didn't they name any of the pharaohs?
Name the guy. Provide a clearer identify.
Yeah.
It's probably because they didn't know. And because the story it was not so important to say, there was a passage of 200 years after Joseph and so ended up on the throne of Egypt, because that wasn't the point of the story, right?
Yeah.
The point of the story is, as Vish pointed out earlier, the forging of a national identity. So in many ways, this is a timeless story that you can situate broadly in pick a period. It doesn't have to fit into the late Bronze Age, even if that might be the best place for it to go. It doesn't have to go there. So
yeah,
for him to say, I'll just remind you that he started this part of his talk by saying that the Bible suggests that the Exodus took place in the 13th century. And this is his evidence.
Yeah, this is the kind of reasoning that used to work on me, like when I was growing up and getting in college and stuff. I was like, there's just enough for you to go, hey, I think I could plausibly fit it in this time period. which goes only so far. Unless you can find actual evidence, like people need to eat, so you're going to find remnants of the fires and the animals that they slew for their stuff. Sometimes they would plant crops for a while. You know, you will find evidence
Mhm.
of places they lived. There's all sorts of things that you could be finding. They can drop bracelets in the ground. You could find all sorts of little artifacts. Pottery is a huge one. And we just don't have any of that. So
Nope.
I really don't care what his this seems reasonable type of stuff is, because we just don't have empirical evidence of this happening the way it was written.
Exactly.
Ugh. Okay, comments.
But we know they started to enslave the Semites that lived in that area. So one general, he says, when they took Avaris, he took 3 captives and made them slaves. So they didn't kill them all. They didn't kick them all out. Most of the population there was enslaved. The rulers of the Hyksos were kicked out. The elites, they were set and they went to Jericho. Okay. But as far as we can tell, most of the population there was enslaved by the Egyptian.
Wait, is that a thing? That the Hyksos elite went to Jericho?
I don't know. That one's I don't know enough about this, so I'm not gonna touch that.
Okay. Yeah, Cuneiform guy is saying coprolite deposits. 2 million people make a mighty big turf pile. Yeah, you would find places where they went and buried their waste. Did no one die en route and have to be
Right.
buried? Elderly slaves. Yeah, the whole point of wandering in the desert was to kill off all the adults. So why aren't we finding their bodies?
Yeah. What
So
at
weird.
what time are we at here? What's the timestamp you have on the video right now? Just I think 12
12:03.
minutes. I think
Yeah,
just
we're at
skip
12.
ahead to like 15 or so, I
Okay.
think. There's a bunch of this stuff. Yeah. Slaves in Egypt.
Yeah.
All right, they
Alright, here's 15.
they built shit. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Oh, snap. Here we go. Digital
hey,
Hammurabi. I'm going to be honest,
look
the
who it
so-called
is.
Dr. Kemp Davis doesn't even know how to read the Hebrew Jehovah, the pre-Greek Aramaic cuneiform Dead Red Sea Scrolls. It's just sad.
Listen, you
What was
guys.
the temple? Was it the Temple of Ishtar that we were asking about from earlier?
Oh, yes, the Temple of Ishtar by damn it. Shoot. Hold on. Maybe do I have it here in the notes? I might. Tukulti-Ninurta. The Temple of Ishtar built by Tukulti-Ninurta is recorded
We
as
found that temple,
having
right?
occurred 720 years after its founding, but Michael has pointed out that the actual number, the actual time is exaggerated for symbolic purposes. We're just wondering, Dr. Josh, if you have information offhand, what the actual dating for that is. So
Yeah, my question isn't quite as much on the dating, is that we actually found the remnants of that temple, correct?
that's important.
'Cause
Yeah.
even if it didn't take exactly 720 years to build, if you find the temple, well, guess what? It doesn't really matter how long they said it took to build. You actually have the temple, so that's
True.
evidence.
It sure
Yeah.
is. All right.
He's
that's next.
asking of the building itself.
Oh, shoot, I'd have to go back.
Kip and I have
Damn it.
slightly different focus questions, so.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm sorry, man. I would have to go back and review, and I don't have time for that. So it's not important.
Okay. All right.
For another time.
Oh, I recognize some of these tools from other pseudo history debunking streams.
Cool. That's fun.
Yeah, showing how they would drill into stone using just copper and wet sand. It's not
That's
that
wild,
hard.
eh? Yeah, right.
Josh says he'll take a look.
Nice.
Food,
Thanks, man.
send them to the Egyptians to do more higher skilled labor kind of stuff. We also see, for example, this is called the Louvre leather roll from about the time of Ramses, and it refers to foreigners being used as slaves to make bricks. Okay, so what do we see so far? We see that a new king took over.
I need to know more information about this girl. Because you can't just go, well, here's some random text about them using people to make bricks.
It mentions
and then
people making bricks.
just
yeah.
in implying like, oh, well, this means that the claim that, you know, the Israelites are made to make bricks is completely legit. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
Gosh, let's see. It says from year 5 of Ramses II, around 1274 BCE, reports quotas and the failure to meet assigned quotas of bricks.
Sure. It's just I don't know. It's just I'm happy to grant that there were enslaved Asiatic peoples in the Ramesside period in Egypt. And maybe and like a whole bunch of them too. That's yes, sure. I don't think there's any dispute about that. This is not blowing up anybody's skirt. So,
yeah, and this doesn't mean that the Exodus happened.
Exactly. Press play.
In the north, land of Goshen, were enslaved, involved in brick making, treated harshly, and they were shepherds. So far, so good, right? Okay. But what about
No, these are new facts that you're introducing, buddy.
He might have introduced
like,
it in the bit that we skipped, but yeah.
I just hate the whole like, well, they hated shepherds. It's like, okay. What about this?
Maybe they were, right? It just
Maybe.
Fine. That's cool. Sure.
Exodus?
Yeah.
What happened to the Semites? So we know they're living in Avaris. Did they just stay there for thousands of years?
They're living in Avaris.
What happened to Avaris? That was the city where the Semites lived. Well, Avaris was basically in use for a long time. And then one day, we don't know, people stopped living there. Manfred B. Texture says, a West Semitic population living in the Eastern Delta for quite a length of time from the late 12th century until the Ramesside period. Now, the Ramesside...
That's not even a complete sentence.
Yeah, that's not even a complete sentence.
It's just it's the end of a sentence. But look at what he's saying here. There was a West Semitic population living at this place for a long time, and then they weren't. That's what he's saying.
Until the Ramesside period.
Yes.
Ramesses,
but this is
apparently, according to him, what happened before the Exodus. So,
well, this is
down by that time.
This is he's going to suggest this is evidence for the it's because of the Exodus that they're no longer that's why they disappeared, right? This is it. Notice that is not what Manfred B. Tech is saying, because what Manfred B. Tech is doing is responsible history for archaeology.
Yeah.
Right? Like he is you don't just leap to conclusions just because you can cobble a couple of pieces together from various sources. You have to, because that we just do not have that kind of information. We just don't know enough about this to just draw this line and say this is who these people are. That's why he's speaking like this.
This is by Springer, like it's published by Springer. Text, archaeology, culture, and
economics or
economic. No,
no, government.
That's the wrong full size button. Geoscience.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's time for me to get a new eye exam. So anyway, this would seem like a reputable publication. But again, you can't just take a sentence fragment and use that to support your case. That's very sus.
Yep. Very.
That period is around the 1200s. So basically, there's Semites living there. And then in the 1200s, they're not there anymore. Where did they go?
And it doesn't
we
say
don't
1200.
Know.
This says 12th dynasty. This is 1830 BCE. This is way back there, guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have helped if he had it, because that is true, right? Like it is what Michael is saying is generally accurate. It sure would have helped to have, included that in the source he cited here.
So he notes, for
period.
example, this is a very detailed quote, but here's basically what he says. He says, basically, you have all these Semites living in there. Then he says, from the time afterwards, when everyone was in ruins, we have evidence of scattered Ramesside burials of domestic animals such as dogs. In other words, this is a populated city.
The fortress walls from the time of King Horemheb found at Esbet Elmi may be a hint that these walls could be part of this fortress. It cuts into the remains of the Hyksos palace and produced from its filling sherds of Maraldi of the late 18th dynasty Ramesside period. From this time afterwards, when everything was in ruins, we have evidence of scattered Ramesside burials and burials of domestic animals, such as dogs, sheep, and goats, which may have been connected with pastoral activity in this period.
Okay. So, people living there stopped living there. The city was abandoned. The Egyptians started using it as a burial site. I think that's what he's getting at here.
Okay.
Of Semites. The Semites are no longer there. And then the Ramesside Egyptians start using it as a grave site.
Oh,
For some reason, they needed a new large grave site.
Wait, what?
We don't know. Those burials have been disturbed by agricultural cutting into in the past.
Pause it for a second. They needed a large grave site suddenly?
Is he implying that this is where they would bury the dead people that were drowned in the Red Sea?
I don't know. I think maybe, but I just don't see any of this. This is not in the text, is it?
Yeah,
this is not.
Say, mass grave or mass burial.
No, and it doesn't say that this was the product of a sudden necessity either.
This quote that he has says we have evidence of scattered Ramesside burials and burials of domestic animals such as dogs, sheep, and goats.
Yeah. It doesn't feel quite
but
like he's
what we do see is that the Ramesside Egyptians started using this giant area that Semites used to live at as a giant graveyard. Very odd coincidence. Graveyard. They all of a sudden needed a graveyard.
Where does it say all of a sudden?
Right?
Where is he getting that?
Maybe it was just a good place for a graveyard. And they're like, okay, let's start using
nobody's living there.
This for exactly. People are dying all the time anyways. It's gonna continue to happen. We need a place to put them. What evidence is there that this is a change in the operational behavior of these people up to this point? This is what I'm getting at when I say this is just bullshit history. The way you're doing it here, Michael, you are leaping to conclusions about stuff that is not obvious from the sources you are citing. And maybe you have better sources for this, then fucking cite them.
Yeah, he already has a conclusion. He's just looking for scraps to justify the conclusion. Yes. And he's communicating it in a way that makes the audience think that reputable scholarship is supporting his predetermined theological conclusions.
Yeah.
That's not responsible scholarship. That is irresponsible.
Very much so.
Trinklim Tad for 2. Why does IP look like he's trying to sell me Avon? That's a throwback. Okay.
Just another quote from Manfred B. Tech. He says, major parts of Avaris served as a site for the cemeteries of P. Ramesses during the Ramesside period. The tombs, as I said, have been largely stripped bare and destroyed by agricultural activity of the last 100 years. So basically, again, you have Semites living in Avaris through the New Kingdom up until the time of Ramesses II. All of a sudden, no one's living there anymore. And the native...
Nowhere in the sources that he's provided on screen has this said all of a
All
sudden.
of a sudden. Yeah.
Nor was it implied by the things that he has shown on screen.
Nope.
Saying,
That's
oh,
not what I
until the
saw
Ramesside
either.
period mean hard stop, all of a sudden, critical event. That's not what that means.
So
You
I
do
will.
work.
I'll repeat myself again. If you have a source that provides this kind of nuance, then show us. Right? I just, based on what you're showing me of Manfred Bitek's work, that's not what he's saying. So I need to see more.
Simone is right there with you. She says, it's funny how Bitek says this and Bitek says that. Does Bitek say these were the Israelites and then the Exodus happened?
Thank you.
If not, why not?
Why not? Very, very important question. Why not? Why is he not saying that?
This is something that I was hoping Apologio would come out with. In making my last video, I had to check 6 hours of IP quotes. It was shocking how often the refutation was in the next paragraph.
Next paragraph.
Trojan source strikes again.
Yes. And I've not done as much as Paul has done, but I have encountered this issue with Michael in the past. I've done the same thing. I've gone back and looked what's missing in these ellipses. We did it, Vish, recently in one of his videos where we checked to see what was missing in the ellipsis, and oh, sure enough, it's right in there. The thing that resolves your question. I did it with the video that I made recently with Josh and the brilliant Dr. Christy Cobb from the University of Denver.
That's right.
Yes, right there. Just to show you how this works out. It's just duplicitous bullshit when you do this.
No, this is
Michael.
just wildly irresponsible and dishonest. So, and yeah, I agree with Eric here. Fit the evidence as best you can to the story. Never let the evidence dictate the story. Yeah.
Nope.
Seriously.
Very important. All right.
Egyptians turned that entire site into a massive cemetery. Why did they need a massive cemetery? Well, there was an exodus that occurred.
No, because people and animals die. That's a thing that happens. Even to this day.
It happens. We still need massive cemeteries all over the place.
People do be dying. So it does not, again, in the sources that he's provided on screen, and even fewer from the ones he's quoted, which is partial from the ones on screen, he hasn't demonstrated that this is all of a sudden.
Tinfoil hat level grifter lies. From the only one of between the three of us on screen here, and Deviant Outcast is the only one of us that has any actual training in Egyptology. Tinfoil hat level grifter lies.
Yeah, this is so frustrating.
There would have been a lot of dead bodies lying around.
You say that a lot.
So where did they go? Where did these Semites go? Well,
I mean, I could just say this is bullshit.
Yes. Right?
It's asinine.
It is.
Maybe I shouldn't pull my punches so much with him.
we would say they went on through the Sinai, right? This is where we would say they've gone. But, you know, very smart people much smarter than me, have told us there's no evidence of a massive migration of people moving across.
And, you know, rather than listening to those smart people who know more than you, you just go, nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh. My Bible.
Chip, have you considered?
The...
Nuh-uh.
Oh, let me do it, because I want to do it. I have never done it, so I want to do it. It's shoot, I can find it. Don't. Oh, here we go.
Yep, pretty much. Pretty much.
This, right? Haven't we all been told that? Why have we found no evidence of a mass migration of people moving across the Sinai? Does anybody know?
Yeah, because it didn't happen.
Well, it is where they were. Definitely where they were. Real simple. Real simple. We haven't looked. Okay.
Excuse the hell out of you.
Well, so let's look at what he's got on the screen here. Somebody, we don't know who, because this is not a fucking complete sentence. They're never complete sentences in your slides, Michael. Why are you allergic to complete sentences?
This is a interview with Richard Elliott Friedman from, it looks like Reform Judaism Spring 2014, and then it cites a website from reformjudaism.org, Exodus, not fiction.
Wow.
And Richard Elliott Friedman, apparently, in this article, is saying that the Exodus is not fiction, which, brother.
Well, actually, so Richard Elliott Friedman does, and this is a reasonable position to take. Richard Elliott Friedman does say that the stories in the Bible about the Exodus are based on some things that actually did happen.
That's not.
He's not
claim.
suggesting it's not, but that's all he's suggesting here. Assert that we've combed the Sinai desert and not found any evidence. Something's missing. That assertion is just not true. There have not been any major excavations in the Sinai. That's what he's. No major excavations.
Look what I found.
Did you find it?
I found the interview. Following publication of Reform Judaism Spring 2013 edition, in which Professor David Sperling and Rabbi David Wolpe asserted that the biblical Exodus is a fiction, you wrote expressing concern. Why? And he replies, after reading those articles, your readers may have concluded that scholarship shows that the Exodus is fictional, when in fact that is not so. There is archaeological evidence and especially textual evidence for the Exodus. This is Richard Elliott Friedman speaking. I respect Professor Sperling and Rabbi Wolpe. They were understandably following the claims of some of our archaeologists. Those archaeologists' claims that the Exodus never happened are not based on evidence, but largely on its absence, which is accurate. They assert that we've combed the Sinai and not found any evidence of the mass millions of people whom the Bible says were there for 40 years. That assertion, that they've combed the Sinai, is just not true. There have not been many major excavations in the Sinai. We most certainly have not combed it. Moreover, uncovering objects buried 3,200 years ago is a daunting endeavor. An Israeli colleague laughingly told me that a vehicle that had been lost in the 1973 Yom Kippur War was recently uncovered under 16 meters, that's 52 feet of sand. 52 feet in 40 years. Still,
here we go.
All of us would admit that 2 million people, 603,550 males and their families, as the Torah describes, should have left some remnants that we would find. But few of us ever thought that this number was historical anyway. Someone calculated long ago that if the number of people were marching, say, 8 across, then when the first ones arrived at Sinai, half the people would still be in Egypt.
That's funny.
There is no archaeological evidence against the historicity of an Exodus if it was a smaller group who left Egypt. Indeed, significantly, the first biblical mention of the Exodus, which is the Song of Miriam, which is one of the oldest texts in the Bible, never mentions how many people were involved in the Exodus, and it never speaks of the whole nation of Israel. It just refers to a people, an leaving Egypt. It wasn't until much later.
Wow,
that the
that's
so-called
important.
priestly source, 400 years later, that specific number. And they ask him, well, are you suggesting a smaller group may have left Egypt? And if so, who might they have been? And he says, yes. He's saying a smaller group of people, which is plausible.
And not all Israel, too importantly
not
here.
Israel. Yeah.
Right?
And then he goes on. He says, at a recent international conference entitled Out of Egypt on the question of the Exodus historicity, one point of agreement, I believe, amongst most of the 45 participating scholars was that Semitic peoples or Western Asiatics were in fact living in Egypt and were traveling to and from there for centuries. And the evidence indicates that the smaller group among them who were connected with the Exodus were Levites. The Levites were members of the group associated with Moses, the Exodus, the Sinai events. In the Torah, Moses is identified as Levite. Also, out of all Israel, only Levites had Egyptian names. Moshe, Pinchas, Hophni, and Hor are all Egyptian names. We in the US and Canada, lands of immigrants, are especially aware of how much names reveal about your background. The names Friedman, Martinez, and Shaughnessy each reveal something different about where they came from. Levites have names that come from Egypt. Other Israelites don't. Ooh! Ooh! How about that? And then he mentions the documentary hypothesis,
Convenient
which of course
missing
has been
from
revised
Michael's,
a bit. But yeah, he says that the fourth main source, J, the one that shows no signs of having been written by a Levite priest, makes no mention of the plagues. It jumps from Moses saying, "Let my people go," to the story of the sea. So he goes on to expand on this. I linked it in the chat if people
That's a
want to go
good
back
one.
and read this.
But
But yeah, old Mikey Poo is Friedman would not be on this team here, I don't think. So
I very much think probably not. So agreed. All right. Press play. Let him get through this, and then I'm gonna bring something else up here that I want to point out.
And it's the truth of it all. So Richard Elliott Freeman says skeptics have asserted that we've combed the Sinai and not found any evidence. That assertion is just not true. There have been no major excavations in the Sinai. So why have we not found any evidence of a mass migration of people? No one has bothered to check yet. Also, even
two things really fast. Number one, mass excavations is what he said. Not that there have been no excavations. Two, this idea, well, we aren't finding things that support my claim because nobody's looking. That is almost word for word taken out of like the Atlantis post. What is it? The Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, Lost Ancient High Technology.
Right.
It is that exact claim that grifters like Graham Hancock make. Well, have you looked across the entire Sinai Desert? Have you looked across the entire Sahara? If not, well, you can't say there's no evidence of lost ancient high technology. You have to comb every single square inch. That's BS.
Yeah.
That's BS. That's not how archaeology works. And the third, the earliest things that we call archaeology were basically Bible in one hand, trowel in the other.
That's how it used to work. Press play.
And if we did look, there's no saying we would actually find evidence. As for example, Brooke Halpern notes, giant land armies would cross that terrain. We don't have any evidence of Ramesses moving thousands upon thousands of troops across that. 3,000 years ago. That's just not the kind of evidence that's going to be left behind for 3,000 years. Just weather, wind, elements are going to change things. However, we know that during the wandering period, what was built? The Ark of the Covenant, right?
Okay.
Now, this is a very interesting feature I want to just briefly talk.
And now, I mean, before he gets onto the Ark of the Covenant, I need to. So, Vish pointed this out. It's really important. There have not been. What did he say? There have been no major excavations of the Sinai. It's not to say that it's been untouched. And it's not to say that there is no evidence which strongly suggests that this is something that just didn't happen. He's just not. He's just not presenting a full picture of this. So this is Christian Frevel's book, History of Ancient Israel, from SBL Press in 2023. Point 2.4.2. The Exodus, as the Bible describes it, is not historical. In italics, not historical. The main reasons for this clear statement from an historical perspective is as follows. The chronology is wrong. Biblical chronology, which dates the Exodus after 430 years stay in Egypt and 480 years before the beginning of the temple building, represent a theological construct. This would set the Exodus around 1440, and this dating doesn't work. The point 2.4.2.2, Exodus routes. The routes reported for Israel's departure contradict each other or do not result in a meaningful Exodus journey. The priestly text described the Exodus by way of Horus along the Via Maris, via Pi Haherot and Baal Zephon in Exodus 14:2. The non-priestly texts are distinct from this in that They depict a route leading from Pitom and Sukkot in Exodus 12:37 through the Bitter Lakes into the desert in Exodus 13:20. Both do not lead directly to the southern Sinai Peninsula or to Midian, that is, to where God's mountain presumably stood. Moving on, the size of the Exodus group, according to biblical accounts, is wildly exaggerated. This one's really important, though, because during the wandering period, it's not like the Israelites spent the entire time packing up and moving around. No. There was a settlement of Israelites at Kadesh Barnea that they campaigned from. This was their place of departure when they moved about and went on campaigns in the Transjordan, and this is really important. The Oasis Kadesh, in which Israel is said to have stayed several times, and once for a longer time, texts there, was not inhabited during the Late Bronze Age. In the late 8th century BCE, a huge rectangular fort of 60 by 40 meters with 8 massive towers was set up on Stratum 3. It existed until the Persian period. The earliest phase, Stratum 4C, including a number of Karaya painted ware sherds, formerly known as Midianite pottery, is dated by radiocarbon and ceramic analysis to the 12th through 10th centuries BCE. This substratum continued into substratum 4B, which persisted into the 8th century BCE. The remains cannot be attributed to an early oval fortress. This is Israel Finkelstein, but rather to a small settlement or way station on the Darb el Ghazi, a trade route that leads from the Gulf of Eilat to Gaza. The massive rectangular fortress was built only by the 8th century BCE in stratum 3 to 2. Thus, until the 8th century BCE, the Oasis Kadesh was obviously not that important. So, sure, you're not going to find evidence of wandering, like huge numbers of people wandering and tracking back and forth in the desert itself, but we have settlements. We have a settlement where they spent considerable time, an extended period of time, and there is no evidence for those sojourns at all in the archaeological record. So this is, it's just this is a, what do you call this? This is not a complete picture of the situation. This is not what's going on here. I'm just thinking here about do I want to look at what he says about the Ark of the Covenant, or do I want to move on to, you know what? Let's just jump up. Let's just jump ahead to basically all Michael's going to say is that the Ark of the Covenant looks like it could be an Egyptian piece of furniture. Okay. Cool. It could be, but yeah, it's like, and I'll point, I did a thing recently. I was on Bad Science Sunday a couple weeks ago. Everybody should subscribe to Bad Science Sunday. Maya Atkinson does a show every Sunday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. It's like my favorite show of the week. It's great. I've been on a bunch of times. People should watch. So jump ahead to 24 minutes. I talked about the Ark of the Covenant a little bit in my last appearance on Bad Science Sunday from a couple weeks ago. People can check that out. It's pretty good. So at this point, he's going to start talking. Actually, before we let's start with this. Thanks.
Okay. Right.
Good. Let's talk about the conquest, because again, we had Semites in Egypt around the the early 1200s, and they left. They abandoned Avaris. So where did they go? Well, we would say there was a conquest of Canaan. Do we have evidence of that?
No.
Well, let's go into this a little bit.
Not really.
So if the Exodus happened around 1265, we should expect to find a conquest around 1225, right? So that's where we got to look around that time period, right? Now, what we are told by the experts is there's no evidence of a conquest either, because we don't see massive cities being burned. We should be seeing city after city destroyed, burned, plunder by the Israelites coming in. And we don't see that. Case closed, no conquest, right? I'm sorry, what does the Bible say, though? Does the Bible say they burned city?
Yeah.
Again, experts versus what does the Bible say? My man, you're not a serious person. You're not a serious person
at all.
After city after city after city? No, does not. It says 3 sites were burned. So real quick, they burned Jericho, Ai, and Hazor. Those are the 3. What he does.
Chatzor.
Say it. I know you're going to say it. Come on.
Chatzor. Was that?
No, that
Was
these
that it?
cities were
Oh.
abandoned long before Joshua, if he existed, would have got there.
Oh, well,
Like Ai and
yeah,
Lachish.
here, listen, I actually, okay, let's pull this up because we've looked at this before. Okay, drop this for a second. We did a stream not that long ago talking about some of this stuff. So these are the cities that are, these are some of the cities that are mentioned in the book of Joshua that were destroyed by the Israelites. Not all of them, because most of them we don't know where they are. We don't know. But these are the significant ones. Lachish layer 6 potentially corresponds to the description of what the description in Joshua chapter 10 verses 31 to 32. Importantly, not the entire city was burned. Also, the city of Lachish, after it was attacked and burned and destroyed, guess what happened, Vish? Almost immediately, Canaanites came back and they lived in Lachish again. Canaanites, right away. Canaanites, immediately. Just, we're back. Now look at the date there. 1200 to 1140 BCE. Chatzor, Chatzor 13. Huge city. Largest city in the region. About 80 hectares.
80 hectares?
Yeah. It's giant. Probably supported 15,000 people. It's the largest city in the area. It's said that Joshua destroyed the city and burned it with fire. It is what's called a type 2 destruction, meaning that in actual fact, on the basis of the excavations that have been conducted, the royal quarter of Chatzor was utterly destroyed and burned. Most of the rest of the city was not touched, was untouched. Look at the date there, 1250 BCE. So problematically, if Joshua is going and destroying Lachish in the south, and then follows to destroy Megiddo, and he destroys Debir and Makkedah and a bunch of these other places, this is all said to happen in the course of a few days. And then the text says that Joshua turned his forces immediately north and went to Chatzor and fought against the king of Chatzor and a coalition of the kings of the north and defeated them. This is something that happened in the course of maybe a couple of months, according to the biblical texts. You're looking at a difference between like at least 50 years in the case of Chatzor and Lachish to maybe 100 years when they were destroyed. Megiddo, layer 7, destroyed 1250 to 1100 BCE. So maybe around the same time as Chatzor, but maybe around the same time. We don't know. Like, it's just, there is no precision here. And these places were not all destroyed at the same time. Obviously not by the same people. Obviously not. This is a protracted period of upheaval and destruction that we otherwise know as the Bronze Age collapse, which had an effect on this region. But it's something that took place over a period of about 150 years. So, You can't. What's happening is Michael's telegraphing this information and pretending like it's like you can just smush all the destruction layers that correspond roughly to the period of the conquest into something that approximate what appears in the biblical text, and you can't do it. All right, so that's that. But I also want to maybe we'll
an outcast for you.
comment, and then we'll play a bit of the video, and then we'll get back to this quote
All
from
right, Demon Outcast,
Philibert.
who knows what they're talking about. 1265 BCE is the reign of Seti I, so before the reconstruction of Avaris. Not to mention, didn't the Pharaoh of the Exodus die in the Red Sea? Because we have Seti I's mummy. It's magnificently preserved.
So that is actually not. That is something that people imagine from the biblical text, but is not clearly there. So the Pharaoh doesn't actually.
Pharaoh's
die.
not named. Yeah.
So, and he's unnamed, and he doesn't die.
Yeah. Which you think would be a pretty big flex, but I don't know.
True.
Okay.
So,
do you want to read that, Cyrus? Or do you want to go back to the video?
Go back to the video for a bit, and then I'll get to
say though. What he does say is he says basically you're going to inherit that land. You're going to live in houses you didn't build, live in cities you didn't build, reap from vineyards you did not plant. Says this in Deuteronomy and Joshua over and over again. So if that's the case, we shouldn't expect to see any major changes in terms of the structures of Canaan, right? They just moved in and they took over things. That was the goal of the conquest. And again, they only built.
So how do we, Vish, you've been reading up on some of this stuff for a little while. There are ways that we can identify, like when it comes to the archaeology, there's lots of ongoing discussion by archaeologists about identifying Israelite settlements, and as distinct, there's a few things, right, that we can look at. You can look at pottery types. You can look at they like to something that the scholars like to do is point to the absence of pig bones, right, as a feature of Israelite settlement. The 4-room house has been identified as an Israelite structure, which may or may not actually work. There's a lot of ongoing debate about that more recently, but what Michael is suggesting here is that I should say that what I would expect to see, if the biblical story is correct, that you see an end of cultural occupation and a beginning of a new cultural occupation, whether or not there is a full scale destruction or just a partial destruction. You should be able to see some evidence of a change in some of these elements, which indicate there's a new population of people living in this place that's different from the old population. But guess what? When it comes to these sites, that is not what we see. One of the remarkable things about the period is that over the course of these destructions of cities, there's almost no cultural shift. It's just like people continued on as the way they were. So, and maybe I will just, I'll bring this up now. Actually, no, play it a little bit more and then I'll bring it up.
Okay.
They only burned 3 cities: Jericho, Ai, and Hazor. Now, what about these cities? Were they burned? Well, for the longest time, we've heard there's no evidence of Jericho. I have some good news, though. The latest reports on Jericho from the leading archaeologist there, Lorenzo Nagro, has published a little bit of research within the past few years. First in 2020 and then in 2023. And I assure you, you're going to want to see what the latest reports on Jericho have to say. They are very nice. So I'm going to get to that. You will see some of the latest research on Jericho today.
And then I am going to bring this up. Sorry,
Like,
what was that?
never heard someone say that there's no evidence of the city of Jericho.
Is that what he said? It would
That's
have
what
been
he
a slip
said.
if that's
You've
what he
heard
said.
people say there's
Wow.
no evidence of Jericho. It's like, did he mean the
Oh, he's
destruction
talking the
of?
destruction. Yes, that's what he meant.
Because he didn't say that, and I'm like, wait, what? The
Yeah,
city there, but there's no evidence that the
yeah.
walls fell in and by miraculous, like, whatever. This is nonsense. It was destroyed before,
Jericho's
the
complicated.
Israelites inhabited it. So what?
Yeah. So I just want to bring this up. This is Ann Killebrew, and he actually, so Michael knows this book. He actually cites from it at one point in this presentation. So he should know this. But this is an example, and this is, I got a cough, sorry.
At least you haven't been dealing
So-
with the insane pollen here.
Things that I don't deal with. So this is an example of how responsible archaeologists, responsible scholars approach the evidence that we have for these questions of the Exodus and the conquest of Canaan. Ann Killebrew writes pages and pages of analyzing the data, raising questions, trying to fit them into a model that best explains what's happening in the region when it comes to the Canaanites, the Israelites, and importantly, the Philistines. Because they're still there too, right? Anyways, here's her synthesis. Based on the textual and archaeological evidence outlined above, most approaches to the emergence of Israel fall into one of four general theories: conquest, peaceful infiltration, social revolution, or pastoral Canaanite theories. Schools of thought that not only mirror periods of increased archaeological fieldwork, but also reflect research and political trends over the last 80 years. These theories often reveal not only scholarly opinion and the fashion of the times, but also deeply held personal beliefs. The first two approaches, the conquest and peaceful infiltration theories, postulate an external origin for the Israelites. However, numerous aspects, I need some water, sorry. Numerous aspects of Iron One Hill Country material culture that continue late Bronze Age traditions, such as the ceramic repertoire and elements of cults, tend to cast doubts on a purely external source. More recent schools of thought, recognizing a closer relationship with indigenous traditions, propose an internal or a Canaanite origin. So I'm not going to go over them now, but she goes over the features of all four of these, and then she proposes what she calls the mixed multitude theory for the origins of Israel. Ancient Israel's mixed multitude is defined here as a collection of loosely organized and largely indigenous, tribal, and kin-based groups whose porous borders permitted penetration by smaller numbers from external groups. Although it is impossible to reconstruct with certainty the proto-history of Israel's origins, it most likely comprised diverse elements of late Bronze Age society, namely the rural Canaanite population, displaced peasants and pastoralists, the lawless Apiru and Shasu. Fugitive or runaway Semitic slaves from the New Kingdom Egypt may have joined this mixed multitude. Non-indigenous groups mentioned in the biblical narrative, including Midianites, Kenites, and Amalekites, the latter perhaps connected with the control of camel caravan trade routes between Arabia to Canaan, may also have formed an essential element. Egypt's decline and eventual retreat from Canaan undoubtedly was one of the major contributing factors in Canaan's return to a more fragmented, kinship-based tribal society and Israel's subsequent ethnogenesis. Using the rich variety of available sources, including archaeological evidence from Canaan during Iron 1, a cautious and critical reading of the biblical texts, and the appearance of the word Israel as a people in the word Israel as a people in the Israel or Menapta stele, it is possible to begin to demarcate the shifting social boundaries that characterize 12th and 11th century material culture. When considered in its larger Eastern Mediterranean context, the process of Israelite ethnogenesis is by no means unique. Similar processes of breakdown, fragmentation, and transformation were occurring simultaneously through much of the region. The impact of the disintegration of the Hittite and Mycenaean spheres of influence appeared in the form of a new group of people who settled the southern coast of Canaan and entered biblical history, the infamous Philistines. So, what is she saying here? And Killebrew is saying that fixating, and she's not even just including like this is not just the conquest model. She's saying the conquest model itself is woefully insufficient to explain what's happening in the region at the end of the 12th century and the beginning of the 13th century BCE. But then again, so are these other models that scholars have come up with, like the peaceful infiltration model, or the peasant revolt model, or what's often called the invisible Israelites model, where the people were just always there, and over time, the culture changed. She's suggesting that all four of these models are inadequate to explain everything that's taking place there. So, what's probably happening is factors and features from all four of those models. That's not to say that there was no, and I'm saying no conquest with a small c here. That's not to say that there weren't people coming and not just the same people. That's not to say that there weren't people, small p, coming from all sorts of different places into the region and creating destruction and then resettling there. That certainly was happening over a longer, more protracted period of time. But the people who were there just didn't go anywhere either. They're still there. There was social upheaval in the region at the end of the Bronze Age during this tumultuous period that we call the Bronze Age collapse. That's also something that was happening. There was progressive cultic shifts that take place over this period of time. And what Ann Killebrew is saying, the best way to understand it is to recognize that all of this is happening, which is why we know that the Exodus, as it's presented within the Bible, and the conquest, as it's presented within the Bible, did not happen. We know this. We know this because the picture is complicated. Michael is cherry picking parts of this larger picture and saying, this is what happened. And he's ignoring everything else. And that is bullshit history. That is bullshit biblical scholarship. That's bullshit theology. Any way you shake it, this is not the way. This is irresponsible. All right. That's my soapbox. I'm done. And maybe we're done. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking this would be a good place to wrap. I mean, honestly, this is such bullshit. Like the fact that multiple times during this one clip, and we've only gotten 26 some odd minutes into it, well, the experts say this, but the Bible says this. Like, buddy, that's the worst possible ground to be on, that you're no different than young earth creationists when it comes to that. So
at that point, right?
Stop.
It's yeah. Well, I mean, we've got no, absolutely correct, Fish. And maybe I don't know.
Well, they don't know what they're talking about. Man, get out of here. You're
We're
not a
like
serious
halfway.
person.
Yeah, just not. We're about halfway through his presentation, and maybe we'll continue with this next week. We'll see. But for now, for today, I think that's probably it, because I've got to go get ready to play Star Trek coming up in
Woohoo!
40
Trek.
minutes. Yeah, it's coming. But I think we
I
do
remember
have
that
a
I do
few
have
things to
donuts.
read.
So I'm gonna go eat donuts.
What's that?
I do have
What's that?
donuts.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Very good.
Gonna go eat
I
some
think we
donuts.
do have a few things to read, though.
Yes, we do. Okay.
And I just before, did you get I don't think we got this one from Tree Climb Ted.
I was just about to pull out now. Exodus took place last Thursday. Yeah, this is like last Thursdayism. For two, another one from Egyptian building products. Yeah, Israel. Yeah, exactly. Enduring motifs.
Thank you very much, Enduring Motifs.
If the Exodus did happen from a Hyksos-type expulsion, it wasn't just Asiatics. Egypt would have pushed out the royal house officials, soldiers, merchants, allies, and mixed loyalists.
Right, yes.
Libyans.
Like it just, that looks nothing like the biblical picture either, right? Yeah. It just, it's excellent point.
Mel writes, I presume that IP dismisses this evidence because he thinks that all the skeptical scholars were expecting to find bodies. Like,
he said as much.
Well, we don't find those either, but we don't find animal waste. We don't find animal bones. We don't find evidence of like even temporary settlements. We don't find charred remnants from where they would have had to build fires to cook food. We don't find earthenware vessels in which they would have cooked and or served the food. People left that shit everywhere. Just when we say like there's nothing, go comb the desert. Like Spaceballs, go comb the desert. If you can find evidence of this stuff, please report it. But anyway, let's just keep going. Okay. Chrissy for 2. Yay, Vish is back, and also Kip has no butt.
Kip Davis has written no.
Thanks for teeing that up, Chrissy. I appreciate it.
Anywho.
There were a few more, I thought, comments you flagged, weren't there?
Super chats that I can see. I mean, like maybe through everything there were some starred comments, but I think we got most of all those.
Did we get this one?
This is one of those things where if the Exodus doesn't exist, does that mean Aaron Minor? This is one of those things where people kind of misunderstand what we're trying to do. This is not a univocal, fundamentalist, all or nothing type of channel. Like Kip is an academic. He studies this in a scholarly way. And when we're talking about these texts, we're saying, hey, there's some things in here that have kernels of truth. Some of them are exaggerated. Some of these are legendary. Some of these are some pretty accurate renditions of history that we have, external verifications for. There's a whole spectrum of stuff going on here. So Miriam's song at the sea is one of the oldest sections of the Bible, or the text that would later make up the Bible. And there's quite a few of these really, really old poetry type of fragments. So I think the Song of Deborah is another one. But yeah, these are early elements that were preserved and then later stitched into larger narratives or used for other purposes. So it doesn't mean, oh, well, this didn't happen as written, therefore nobody in it existed. That's not what that means. It's like, hey, this didn't happen as written. Okay.
Yeah. I know and I recognize about Adrian Belgrave from a bunch of different shows, and he's been here before. So I've got this is a good faith question, and I would say there is no good evidence for the existence of the actual existence of any of these figures, such as Moses or Aaron or Miriam, which isn't to say that all that means is that we just don't know beyond what the text provides us, and we have lots of reasons to think that these are massive embellishments, right? Probably not, but thanks for the question, Adrian. I appreciate it. So
yeah, the next question, don't even worry about it. It was just, it's not really a good faith.
Sounds good.
criticism.
We got another super chat from Tree Climb Tad though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
To finish up.
Yeah, again, some things in the Bible are true, some aren't. The entire
right.
Bible is not one single truth claim, and not every verse, story, or narrative or chapter is a truth claim. So, is it true? Like, what are you talking about? What part?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
one of those like category errors. So,
and I'm not scholars. I and scholars are not sitting here and just looking to pick holes in the text. I mean, there was one thing that that Michael said there with regards to the evidence of Jericho. He is something that I would never say, and no historian would ever say, and no biblical scholar or like philologist will ever say, where he said we have new evidence from Jericho, and the evidence is very nice. No, like I don't have any of like value judgment on the evidence. It's just evidence. It's nice to have evidence. That's what's nice. The evidence itself is just what it is. It has no bearing on how I feel about things, or more importantly, my feelings on things have no bearing on the valuation of the evidence. The evidence is the evidence. And it's just like, I mean, that's a huge difference. So
this is why, like, allegedly, in my opinion, people's identity formation really shouldn't be formed on, is this one thing 100% true? Because if you start doing that, then one teeny tiny little crack and your whole shit falls apart. And you see this kind of reaction from like really fundamentalist or conservative all or nothing traditions. Like Answers in Genesis, they're like, you can trust it for the very first verse. That was literally 7 days. And if it wasn't, then you can't trust the rest of the Bible. It's like, buddy, that is a house of cards. You don't actually have to build your theology that way, and you don't have to build your identity that way.
Yeah.
You just don't have to. So if you create, and again, you can update, people's vibes change, you can change. If you have community identities and boundaries and things like that, that don't rely on one single element and don't stand or fall on like whether a mythological or legendary story is true, you're not going to have like these breakdowns, and you're not going to get into this anti-intellectual, well, here's what the experts say, but our text says something. Like, come on, man. Come on. Just take reality for what it is. It's messy. It's complicated. It's often not what we would consider morally palatable. That's just part of our history. We need to acknowledge that and then go, we don't have to behave the same way. We can update our ethics, update our morals. We can move past the certain things that people used to do. It's like, hey, give yourself room to grow. But that's just my personal take on it.
Good advice. You got anything coming up, Vish?
Somewhat busy weekend, but nothing super intense. My channel, I had to back burner some of that because I'm in the weeds on a really huge history project right now. So
right.
We may have to consult folks for some grant writing, because I'm starting to realize this project is going to be a lot bigger than I anticipated. Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've never really had to do grant writing before, so.
Tomorrow is Saturday, though.
Yes, it is.
I believe we are going to be on Dapper Dinosaur's channel tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Back
Eastern, noon Pacific.
I'm working a charity event in the evening, but for the morning time, I should be okay, or at least midday.
We managed in your absence, but it was rough. I'm not gonna lie, it was not.
Probably just not as many shit posts and memes.
Yeah, maybe that. So yeah, watch. You guys can check out Vish and me tomorrow on Dapper Dinosaur's channel with the famous dinosaur. And
one more super chat.
Oh wow!
Thanks, some things in YouTube streams are true, some aren't. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like most people here are pretty good at telling the difference too. So good job, people. So that's tomorrow morning. And then I am going to be back next after that on Thursday for another episode of Kiriati Breed. And my guest next week will be Justin from Deconstruction Zone, I think. Let me just check my calendar because I want to make sure I got that right. Yes, that is correct. Yes. Okay. So yeah, next week, Justin from Deconstruction Zone will be here on Thursday to read Hebrew with me, and Vish and I will be back on Friday for another one of these things. And like I said, we may just continue with this video, but we shall see. And then everyone is going to be redirected now to Dapper's alternate channel, Top Hats Off, where we're playing
some Star
Trek. Season 3 of Star Trek Endurance is starting in 30 minutes. So we should probably get out of here.
There's an episode of Toast to Toast. So lots of fun things that go from somewhat serious to super fun to not serious at all. So the later the season goes, the less serious it will be.
That's right. So lots to do tonight, guys. And as always, whatever you're doing,
be excellent to each other.
Be good. Stay safe. And hot take 5.